Welcome to TECNTV.com. The world today draws OCHEME-OJABO. U.S. News. Montana AG issues legal opinion ruling critical race theory violates equal protection. Montana Attorney General Austin Knudsen on Thursday issued a legal opinion that found that using critical race theory in training and education programs violates the U.S. Constitution as well as federal laws. Knudsen issued determination following arrests from Secretary Elsie Anzen, who wanted the state's top legal official on the legality of teaching so-called anti-racism programs and critical race theory in Montana public schools. In his opinion, Knudsen said the activities taken in the name of critical race theory are discriminatory and done in violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, titled 5th of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Article 2, Section 4 of the Montana Constitution and the Montana Human Rights Act. Eradicating race discrimination is a legitimate and worthy goal, the opinion states. All Montana government entities can and must work to prevent discrimination prohibited by the Equal Protection Clause, Title 6, the Montana Constitution, the MHRA, and where applicable, Title 7. These laws protect everyone from unlawful discrimination and symbolize our nation's serious commitment to its ideals. It should be no surprise, therefore, that these legal safeguards cannot allow race-based discrimination, even when it comes disguised as anti-racist remedial measures. His determination effectively bans critical race theory from being taught in schools, as violations of state or federal civil rights laws could jeopardize a public school's funding. Committing racial discrimination in the name of ending racial discrimination is both illogical and illegal. It goes against the exceptional principles on which our nation was founded and has no place in our state, Knudsen said statement. Montana does not tolerate schools, other government entities, or employers implementing CRT anti-racist programming in a way that treats individuals differently on the basis of race or that creates a racially hostile environment. Tom Cottongrill's Biden nominee on divisive critical race theory training. Let's go to the videotape.
Ms. Ruby, what was your involvement in the incorporation of critical race theory or diversity, equity, and inclusion training at the Sandia National Labs?
Senator Khan, thanks for that question. I'm a strong believer in diversity, equity, and inclusion training for our workforce. And in fact, study after study shows that the culture of institutions is a reason why we lose top talent, and particularly women and people of color. So my first statement is I'm a strong supporter and have benefited greatly personally and been part of an institution that's benefited greatly from diversity, equity, and inclusion training. The issues with the Sandia divisive training occurred after I left the laboratory. And I understand it has been reviewed, and if confirmed, I look forward to evaluating those reviews and making sure that we have high-quality training programs that will continue into the future.
Ms. Ruby, I've heard from concerned former NNSA officials and lab workers who said these controversial training regimens were conducted under your watch. Did you direct or participate in any of what you just called divisive training sessions?
I did participate in training, diversity, equity, inclusion training at the laboratories. The training that I participated in, I never considered divisive, nor did I hear that from any employee that participated in the training at the laboratory while I was there.
Did you personally participate in any training that instructed white employees to, quote, deconstruct their white culture, end quote, or to apologize for bigotries or prejudices that they did not commit?
No, Senator. The classes did explore privilege, but in my opinion, they never were divisive or asked inappropriate questions of apologies of the white workforce.
Do you believe that any race is inherently prejudiced, bigoted, or oppressive?
No, sir.
Do you believe that any race is inherently victimized or oppressed?
No, sir.
Do you see any inherent danger in telling highly skilled technicians who control one of the largest stockpiles of nuclear weapons in the world that they are working for a country whose roots are founded on systemic racism?
Well, no, I don't. But I do think we need to be open to the issues that exist and that the cultures that exist that don't allow us to fully utilize all Americans in our science and technology enterprise.
So you don't see any danger in teaching these technicians who are in charge of our nuclear stockpiles that America is a fundamentally or systematically racist country?
I do not think America is a fundamentally racist country.
And so therefore you would also not permit any such training in the agency should you be confirmed?
That is correct. I would want to make sure all of our training was high quality.
Thank you. I think we can all agree that if you're an American, no matter your race, sex, creed, preference, and that you're, especially if you're gifted in fields like math, physics, chemistry, or engineering, that we want you and we need you at the NNSA. But I hope that we also treat our workforce with respect and don't subject any of these highly trained professionals to this very foolish kind of training that teaches them that one race is inherently guilty by birth or one race is inherently oppressed by birth, or that
Our international news segment. U.S. condemns Beijing's retaliatory move to ban former religious freedom official. Secretary of State Antony Blinken condemned the Chinese regime's retaliatory sanction on the former U.S. religious freedom official, saying that Beijing's intimidation tactics wouldn't deter international scrutiny. Beijing's attempt to intimidate against those speaking out for freedoms, including freedom of religion or belief, only draw additional international attention and scrutiny to egregious abuse. Blinken said in a statement on May 27th, a day after the regime blacklisted a former U.S. Commission on Religious Freedom, U.S. CIRF Commissioner. Blinken, elaborating on those abuses, pointed to the ongoing crimes against humanity and genocide in Xinjiang, as well as his repression of religious and spiritual adherents, including Tibetan Buddhists, Christians, and Falun Gong practitioners. The May 26 sanction on Johnny Moore, an evangelical pastor who has twice served on USCIRF, came after the State Department under the Biden administration punished the first Chinese official for his role in suppressing the meditation discipline, Falun Gong. It also made Moore the third USCIRF commissioner to be sanctioned under the regime, a tit-for-tat sanctions over China's abuses of religious freedom. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, which is atheist, allows only 5 religions: Buddhism, Taoism, Islam, Catholicism, and Christianity to exist under its tight state control. Adherents of the faith Adherents of the faith group Falun Gong, which had roughly 70 million to 100 million followers by the late 1990s, have lived under constant threats of detention, slave labor, and even organ harvesting since the regime began to persecute the practice in 1999. Experts have warned that the regime has refined its persecution tactics through the relentless campaign against Falun Gong and deployed those tactics on other religious minorities such as the Uyghurs in Xinjiang. Moore told the Epoch Times he saw the sanction as a badge of honor. He referred to China as the world's worst human rights violator, and it is. I don't even think that the Communist Party in China denies that fact, Moore said in an interview on Thursday. They just somehow think it's justified. The rules of the world don't apply to them. How China uses intimidation, negotiation to bring Christians under its control. Let's go to the videotape.
In a residential corner of Beijing, down a leafy side street,
She asked why.
the Chinese officials are waiting for us at the apartment gate. No foreigner, no camera, he says. Closed. That is until our host, Pastor Shu Yonghai, comes out. After arguing with officials, he invites us up to his small third-story flat. The political pressure on us is growing, he says. See the trouble you had? Our people get stopped all the time. Once a week, Shu's parishioners meet around the dining room table in this so-called house church, or perhaps elsewhere if police intervene. It's one of thousands of tiny underground congregations playing cat and mouse with authorities across the country. Indeed, China has the fastest growing Christian movement in the world. Its followers likely outnumber Communist Party members. Beijing isn't ready to let things get out of its control. In the past months, dozens of Protestant churches have been raided and shut, sometimes violently, says Pastor Zhang Chunli from China's Christian heartland in the south. Police came in and removed our crosses and books, he says. They told us the gatherings are illegal. Even larger, government-approved churches have been ordered to reduce their visible presence by removing crosses. As work crews took down one huge cross in the southern city of Xinjiang recently, parishioners prayed and sang. A video circulated online shows one man yelling, "Religious people are not bad. Why are you treating us like this?" Beijing's taken a very different approach with the Catholic Church here. It hasn't been so much confrontation as negotiation, a deal with the Pope over who gets to choose China's bishops. That's been a sticking point since the 1950s and only seems to have been resolved over the past few weeks. In a public appeal from Rome, Pope Francis asked Catholics to support the arrangement, saying it will open a new era of cooperation with the communist leadership, though Vatican insiders say it will also effectively give Beijing a veto over appointments. The deal's been controversial. The head of the Hong Kong Catholic Church calls it a betrayal that doesn't protect religious rights.
Now, after the signing of this provisional agreement, there will still be time when priests suddenly they've been made disappeared.
He says China will continue to remove clergy it doesn't like and close churches whenever it wants. As news of the deal spreads through China's Catholic congregation, parishioners don't think much will change either. Rome may set the spiritual tone, but Beijing seems ready to exercise its earthly power. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Beijing.
You're watching The World Today with Rose OCHEME-OJABO. We will return with more of the best in urban conservative news right after this special message for you.
Welcome to Global Student Network. Since 2004, schools and families have partnered with Global Student Network to bring the best in online learning to students worldwide. Global's ability to offer multiple curriculum options from one location makes it an ideal solution for meeting a variety of student learning needs effectively and efficiently. Students in grades kindergarten through high school and beyond find self-paced interactive material to keep them motivated and moving forward. The individualized learning platform enables students to excel or receive extra support according to their specific needs. Whether you are looking to supplement student learning or offer a complete comprehensive education, Global Student Network offers a wide selection of online learning options. Check us out today at globalstudentnetwork.com.
Welcome back to The World Today with Rose OCHEME-OJABO on TACNTV.com, Africa Continent News. Oxygen shortages threaten total collapse of dozens of health systems. Dozens of countries are facing severe oxygen shortages because of surging COVID-19 cases, threatening the total collapse of health systems. The Bureau of Investigative Journalism analyzed data provided by the Every Breath Counts Coalition, the NGO Path, and the Clinton Health Access Initiative, CHAI, to find the countries most at risk of running out of oxygen. It also studied data on global vaccination rates. 19 countries around the world, including India, Argentina, Iran, Nepal, the Philippines, Malaysia, Pakistan, Costa Rica, Ecuador, and South Africa, are deemed most at risk after recording huge increases in demand since March, at least a 20% rise, while having vaccinated less than 20% of their populations. There are concerns that other Asian countries like Laos are at risk. The African countries, including Nigeria, Ethiopia, Malawi, and Zimbabwe, which have less mature oxygen delivery systems, meaning a small increase in need could create big problems. Many of these countries faced oxygen shortages before the pandemic, said Liz Greensley, coordinator of the Every Breath Counts Coalition. The extra need is pushing health systems to the brink. Africa sees big shortage of oxygen during COVID-19 pandemic. Let's go to the video tape.
Since the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic, the need for affordable and sustainable access to oxygen has been growing in low and middle-income countries. Currently in developing countries, more than 500,000 people are estimated to need oxygen cylinders per day. Many countries in Africa in particular are reporting spikes in demand. The International Solidarity Organization and the WHO launched a task force a month ago to manage the oxygen crisis related to COVID-19.
The first step is to make the diagnosis. That is to say, to identify what the needs are and where they are located. This is an absolutely essential step. And that was the meaning of the first intervention of the group, which very quickly identified needs in about 20 countries, including 15 African countries which have the most acute needs. This first wave of countries concerns, for example, Senegal, Chad, the DRC, but also Nigeria, which has identified a very important need. Malawi is also affected, and this is not a unique situation in each of the countries. We have seen tension in South Africa, and fortunately today we see that the epidemic's dynamic is decreasing in this country. So the needs are very directly linked to the dynamics of the pandemic.
An important step would be to organize the purchase and the distribution of oxygen or the tools necessary to deliver it in countries where they are needed, from costs to logistics, including health infrastructure.
In Africa, several parameters make things more complicated in terms of access to oxygen. First, the infrastructure, and that is to say, the organization. The hospital's organization, oxygen distribution networks which are not yet installed everywhere. As for those which exist, they require technical assistance for their commissioning. And we are in the process of implementing other solutions, namely the extractors of oxygen. Instead of delivering oxygen in shells, devices are connected to a source of solar electricity. And that makes it possible to manufacture oxygen on site, and also to deliver this oxygen directly to the people who need it. This then allows us to have high levels of oxygen flows, which help to improve care given to people.
Des flux d'oxygène à haut débit et qui permettent de prendre en charge les personnes.
The new task force has identified an immediate funding requirement of $90 million to address the major oxygen access problems in some 20 countries, including Malawi, Nigeria, and Afghanistan.
Bodies wash up on Libyan beach after boats sink. Photographs have emerged of the bodies of babies and toddlers washed up on the beach in Libya, highlighting the human tragedy of the migration crisis on Europe's borders. According to the charities that posted the photos on Twitter, the children have been traveling with their parents on one of the many dinghies that set off from Libya in recent days. I'm still in shock for the horror of these images, Oscar Camps, the founder of Proactiva Open Arms, wrote on Twitter. These small children and women had dreams and life ambitions. Nancy Porcia, an Italian journalist and Libyan expert, said the bodies were discovered on a beach in Zuwara on Saturday when they were collected by the Libyan military and buried in the cemetery in nearby Abu Ghosh. The images have been compared to the photograph of Alan Kurdi, the 3-year-old who was found face down on a Turkish beach in 2015, which galvanized public attention to the refugee crisis. A spokesperson for the United Nations Immigration Agency in Italy said it was not clear when had set off from Libya and what had happened to their vessel. These are dramatic images, said Flavio Di Giacomo, trying to get to the bottom of this with our colleagues in Libya. There are many shipwrecks that are never recorded. We can't exclude that. It may be one of them. Thousands of people have departed Libya for the coast of Europe in recent weeks as people smugglers take advantage of calm seas to launch dozens of boats. Many will reach their destination. Survivors of sized migrant boats off Libya have told the aid group Save the Children and estimate. Let's go to the video tape. I encourage you this Thursday to choose Parenting on Boys with Rules on Facebook Live. You're watching The World Today with Rules. We will return with more of the best in urban conservative news right after this special.
I started the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network in 2008, and we put this together for us. The concept was that if one of us armed citizens are involved in a self-defense incident, then we have a network of individuals behind that person in order to help them get through the legal fight, if necessary, after the incident.
Deal with the aftermath of a deadly force encounter where they have survived the initial fight to save their lives and are now working very hard to be able to save their futures as well.
What really has impressed me is the boots on the ground side of it. Having had some small part in some of the cases where ACLDN has come in and helped people who are in trouble, I've seen Marty Hayes' vision for this organization fulfilled.
Last year, one of my students had called upon the ACLDN services after he was forced into a fatal defensive shooting. He was guided through the process. His rights were protected by a network-provided attorney and got through the entire legal process without any real difficulties. Now it's behind him. He's able to move on with his life.
Welcome back to The World with Rose OCHEME on TV. Police officers orders arrested for vandalizing railway tracks. The special advisor to the governor of Nasarawa on infrastructure, Yusuf Musa, has been involved in the vandalism of railway tracks. This was announced by the Nasarawa State Police Commissioner, Bola Longe, while parading Mr. Musa and other suspects at the force headquarters in Lafayette. Mr. Longe, in a press release obtained by Premium Times, said the suspects, including police, were now knowing the intelligence information received by the command. According to him, the suspects have turned the Nigerian tracks that traverse some major cities and villages in Nasarawa State en route to Benue State's gold mines, where they vandalize and cut away rail tracks. Consequently, the State Police Command developed a strategic anti-vandalism template to arrest the tide of this unwholesome scenario. It is gratifying to note, however, that this template paid off on the 16th of May 2021 at about 1:30 and 24th of May 2021 at about 3 o'clock respectively, when police operatives swooped on the vandals at their theater of operation while vandalizing and cutting away railway tracks sleepers along Agaragu Tofa in Lafia local government area and Angwan Alago of Kadarko districts in Kiena local government area. Mr. Longer stated that Richard Joseph, an inspector of police, Mali Peter, a sergeant, Ibrahim Usman, an official of Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, and 3 others were arrested at the crime scenes. He, however, said an extensive investigation into the case led to the arrest of Mr. Musa and 10 others. NSCDC officials arrest 4 rail vandals in Kaduna. Let's go to the video tape.
Our men on a tip-off invaded a location of vandalization at Jagindi and met criminals vandalizing railway sleepers. On sighting officers, they took to their heels. One of them, by name Monday, was injured during the raid and had been transferred to General Hospital Kafanchan, where he is receiving treatment. Equally, on the 6th of April, another arrest based on intelligence report from an informant that a truck was sighted loading vandalized railway sleepers at Delhi around Jagindi. Officers of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps were mobilized. Few hours later, the truck was intercepted at an army checkpoint at Gerti village of Jamaa local government, carrying 1,600 railway sleepers and clips, and was transferred to the NSCDC command alongside the suspect named Nanjuma Mohammed and the Khalifa's aide for further investigation. On the 14th April, another suspected case of vandalization was reported and arrest was made. The suspect was arrested with railway sleepers clips. The suspect is currently in detention and under medical observation due to threats of insanity he is exhibiting. These people, they are saboteurs, so the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps is all out to track them and take the necessary action in order to bring them to the book. Now we are calling these people to stop it. This is act of vandalization and it's against the effort of the government in bringing life easy to the people. So we are calling them to stop this act because we will not relent in our effort to track them down.
And to others, fear of massive retirement grips officers as army gets new chief. 6 days after the tragic death of the Chief of Army Staff Corps, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Atahiru, in a plane crash in Kaduna State, Nigerian Army got a new chief, Major General Farouk Yahaya, following his appointment as the new Chief of Army Staff yesterday by President Muhammadu Buhari. The announcement followed the end of the 3-day after the federal government directed to fly the national flag at half-mast from Monday in honor of Atahiru and 10 other military officers that died in the crash. Prior to his appointment, Yahaya was the general officer commanding 1st Division of the Nigerian Army and the incumbent theater commander of the counter-terrorism, counter-insurgency outfits in the Northeast. The newly appointed army chief indicated that his hobbies are cracking jokes, traveling, reading, and listening to local music, according to his curriculum vitae released by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu. About 10 major generals may have to retire from the service following the emergence of Yahya a member of the 37 regular corps as the 22nd cohorts are serving members of regular corps 35, 36, and 37 in the Army, Air Force, and Navy may be forced out of service. This is in line with military tradition since the affected generals cannot serve under a junior officer to them and must mandatorily go home. Although the exact figure of generals that may be forced to resign was not known at the time of filing this report, it was also unclear if the Minister of Defense, Major General Sali Humagashi, retired, will allow a chunk of senior military officers to go in the middle of terrorism war. Buhari appoints Major General Farouk Yahaya as Chief of Army Staff. Let's go to the video tape.
Breaking news. President Muhammad Buhari appoints Major General Farouk Yahaya as Chief of Army Staff. The President of Nigeria, Muhammad Buhari, has today appointed Major General Farouk Yahaya as the new Chief of Army Staff, (COAS), to replace the recent dismissed General Ibrahim Atahiru, who died in a fatal plane crash en route in Kaduna State, along with other senior officers and crew members. Until Major General Farouk appointment, it was the GOC Division 1 and the incumbent Theater Commander of Counter-Terrorism, Counter-Insurgency Military Outfit in the Northeast Code named Operation Adi Kai.
Don't be carried away, listen up. Your happiness, it has been registered. The COAS is standing right before you. All retire back to our beat. There's going to be a special moment that will be organized that will have this special celebration for the gift of God. Again, on behalf of the COAS, I wish to encourage each and individual of us to go back. You yourself, your family, your people back home, to submit the new COAS in the hands of God.
Congratulations to the new Chief of Army Staff. Nigerians to pay more for imported vehicles from June 1. Beginning from June 1, 2021, Nigerians with a low budgets will be unable to purchase cars, while those with a high budget will pay double, as terminal operators have announced a 50% increase in terminal handling charges. Two roll-off ROR terminals at the Tinkan Island Port, Ports and Terminal Multipurpose Limited, PTML, as well as 5-Star Logistics Terminal, had 2 weeks ago announced an increase in their terminal handling charges by 50%. According to the circular released by both terminal operators, the increment is expected to take effect from Tuesday next week. However, the terminals have blamed the increment on inflation and huge operational costs due to the nature of Nigerian ports, among others. Under Nigerian law, tax is charged at 7.5% of the value of the taxable goods and services, known as value-added tax, VAT. At the moment, import duties varies from 5% to 60%, averaging 12%, but all imports are also subject to a 7% port surcharge and a 5% VAT. In the circular by PTML, one of the biggest vehicle terminals in Nigeria, it states PTML would like to bring to the attention of its esteemed customers that the dramatic surge in inflation in 2020 and 2021, as well as the ever-increasing operational expenses incurred because of the particularly challenging port operational environment, which has had a huge impact on the company's direct cost. PTML tariff has not been adjusted for a number of years now, and it has become impossible for the terminal to provide the same level of service as current prices. Nigeria recorded a total sum of 1.28 trillion as of the value of used vehicles, popularly known as tokumbo, and motorcycles imported in 1 year, third quarter 2019 to second quarter 2020, showing an increase of 42% compared to 899 billion recorded in the corresponding period of third quarter 2018 to second quarter 2019. Despite the revised import duty tariff for transport vehicles, which was announced by the government in January, car dealers are still faced with dismal patronage because of the poor economic situation of the country. The rise in import tariff generally is taking a heavy toll on businesses and the cost of goods and services, according to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, NBS. According to the report, the NBS website, imports in Nigeria decreased to 1,759,720,029 kobo in December from 2,397,223,091 kobo in November 2020. Customs to begin vehicle tariff reduction. Let's go to the video tape.
The Nigeria Customs Service is to commence implementation of tariff reduction on vehicles before the end of this month. The Customs Service Comptroller General announced this in Abuja when he featured on Forum, the flagship interview program of News Agency of Nigeria. Consequently, commencement of the policy follows the transmission of the directive to the Customs Service by the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning. The customs boss noted that the high duty paid had also resulted to increased smuggling of vehicles into the country.
We are the initiators of that, but it's no longer our own project. It's a government project, and therefore, so that has been transmitted to us as at this week. We have received the minister's mandate to start working on it. But although we have to develop certain regulations and measures of how we intend to implement, we have to change the codes, the HS codes, to now fit in this thing, because in the passenger vehicle is only the levy that has been reduced from 35% to 5%. So we have to change those codes now to fit into the new law, and then we get it back to. We hope we'll finish that by today, tomorrow, and then the minister will have to look at it and agree that yes, this is what we'll do. And I hope not too long from now, by next week or the next 2 weeks, this law will come into effect. We will circulate it to our own commands to begin to operate.
You are watching The World Today with Rose OCHEME-OJABO. We will return with more of the best in urban conservative news right after this special message for you.
Whether you use your car for your daily commute or as your main source of income, road safety is essential. With more distractions inside the car and more vehicles on the road every year, you need a truthful record of accidents to avoid irresponsible drivers and unnecessary hassles at the courthouse. At Rexing, we believe in protecting drivers and ensuring accountability on the road. This is the Rexing V2, your roadside witness. V2 is a high-powered premium dash cam. With its distinct dual-channel design, you can capture detailed recordings of the road ahead and behind the wheel. Advanced image sensors with wide dynamic range allow the cameras to perform optimally, adapting to any light condition. Control how you record with single-channel 4K Ultra HD recording or dual-channel simultaneous 1080p Full HD recording. Each V2 lens possesses a 170-degree ultra-wide field of view, covering a far-reaching angle to give you a comprehensive picture inside and outside the vehicle. The sleek, discreet design allows the V2 to be mounted anywhere on the windshield, giving taxi, Uber, Lyft, and other occupational drivers a professional appearance while keeping them secure. Intuitive loop recording overwrites your unlocked oldest files, allowing you to continuously record without interruptions. The cutting-edge G sensor automatically detects collisions, auto-locking the current video on impact to ensure the most important footage is protected. And the ready-to-use built-in Wi-Fi makes viewing, saving, and sharing recordings on your smartphone or tablet easier than ever. Engineered for quality, designed for reliability. The Rexing V2 Dashcam. Capture everything.
Welcome back to the World Today with Rose OCHEME-OJABO on TVCNTV.com. Christian news. Mohler denounces F9. Mohler denounces F9 actor John Cena's capitulation to China for apologizing over Taiwan comment. Mohler, who is running to be the next president of the Southern Baptist Convention, denounced former World Wrestling Entertainment star John Cena's apology to China for saying that Taiwan is a country. A former main eventer and multi-time champion in WWE, Cena recently called Taiwan, whose independence is not recognized by China's communist regime, a country. During an interview about a Fast and Furious sequel that Cena was in, the celebrity commented that Taiwan is the first country that can watch the film. Cena later apologized in Mandarin for my mistake in a video posted to social media where the American professional wrestler and actor said, "I love and respect Chinese people." In an episode of his podcast, The Briefing, posted Wednesday, Mueller called Cena's apology an example of capitulation to China, as seen by the groveling language that he had to use. Why will he do this? Is it because China could throw him in jail? Unlikely. Is it because China is going to send agents to arrest him? Unlikely, Mueller said. It is because he has a big financial stake in this very movie, and anything that he will produce or act in later is being watched in China, and that means under the control of the Chinese Communist Party. When you have a totalitarian government, you must be totally in line. John Cena apologizes to China for calling Taiwan a country. Let's go to the video tape.
Actor John Cena has apologized to China after he called Taiwan a country during the newest movie in the Fast and Furious franchise. And in that interview with a Taiwanese broadcaster, Cena said, "Taiwan is the first country that can watch F9. Now, China claims Taiwan as its sovereign territory, despite the two sides being ruled separately since the end of a civil war 70 years ago. Cena offered an apology on social media service Weibo, and he was speaking in Mandarin. He said he did a lot of interviews and made a mistake. He apologized, said it's four varies, very important that he loves and respects China and the Chinese people. He has many fans, he says, in China, and has been studying Mandarin, Chinese, for years. He often posts videos to his 600,000 followers in which he does speak Mandarin. The new Fast and Furious movie is produced by Universal Pictures, which is owned by our parent company, Comcast. It brought in nearly $136 million in China over the weekend, and You know, we've seen things with the NBA, and I kind of understand. And it's, can you separate the Chinese people from the, from the Chinese Communist government? That's the question. And so I can sort of see what he's saying. He's got his fans are Chinese, and I guess they would agree with what the PRC dictates in terms of Taiwan. So it's a fine line to watch, and Twitter.
But the fine line is that they're going to
Twitter exploded.
There's no free speech. That's the fine line. The fine line is you can't say what you think. If you actually say what you think, you're going to get banned in China. It's bad for business.
Would he actually get banned, or he wouldn't have the same amount of? I think it would hurt the box office receipts, right? It's not
either hurt the box office, or you wouldn't see as many. I mean, look, we've seen what's we've seen what's happened in China with so many different businesses. You think that this was simply done because he was worried about the quote unquote box office because people weren't going to come out to see the films, or because you think that the government was going to actually crack down either on the films themselves or his future films or his ability to go on Weibo and say what he wants to say and how much that gets limited?
As memberships fall, more Protestant churches shutting than opening. Study. With fewer than 50% of Americans holding formal memberships in churches in 80 years, more Protestant churches are closing than opening nationwide, and further decline appears inevitable, new data show. Estimates made by the Nashville-based Lifeway Research show that in 2019, well before many churches were forced to close in 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic, approximately 3,000 Protestant churches were started in the US, but 4,500 Protestant churches closed. The findings came from an analysis of congregation data collected from 34 denominations and groups representing some 60% of Protestant churches in the US. A previous analysis done in 2014 showed a net gain in churches that year, when an estimated 4,000 Protestant churches were planted and 3,700 closed. Scott McConnell, Executive Director of Lifeway Research, suggested in a statement that one reason for the decline in church plants is because denominations were more focused on keeping existing churches afloat. Over the last decade, most denominations have increased the attention they are giving to revive existing congregations that are struggling. He said, "This has been more than a fad. This has become a response to a real, growing need to revitalize unhealthy congregations." Where are the faithful? Major church membership decline. Let's go to the video tape.
New numbers show just how bleak that reality is. According to a new Gallup poll, 47% of Americans say they are a member of a church, synagogue, or mosque. That's believed to be an all-time low. 7 Eyewitness News senior reporter Eileen Buckley explores why so many are stepping away from houses of worship.
At face value, it's alarming and disheartening.
That record low membership number of 47% is down from 50% in 2018 and down considerably from 70% in 1999. Researchers say fewer Americans are choosing to align themselves with a particular church or religion. Some say they don't believe in church teachings. Others say they don't believe in God.
What would you tell somebody who walked in right now and said, "I don't believe in God"?
I would invite them to discuss why, and I would simply listen at first, and then if it seemed applicable and appropriate, I would respond with why I do believe in God.
Derek Fetz is the dean of St. Paul's Episcopal Cathedral in downtown Buffalo.
Where the disconnect is that organized religion, the church, Christianity or Judaism or Islam, I think there's sometimes a disconnect in terms of listening to people in terms of what they need.
But despite the decline in church membership, church leaders say it's a chance for them to entice more people back to the pews.
We have to do our homework. We have to humble ourselves. We have to listen to what people actually need, because I think there is a hunger for meaning and purpose.
We need to find ways to engage with people in different ways. But of course, I think nothing can replace community. and coming to church.
At Annunciation Greek Orthodox Church in Buffalo, Father Christos Christakis says the decline in church membership is challenging, but you cannot force people to follow God or religion.
And I think the challenge we have as people of faith is to really reach out and clarify some misunderstandings.
The Gallup research shows church membership is also linked to age. Those born before 1946 make up 66% of church membership. Baby boomers, 58%. Generation X, 50%. Millennials, just 36%. In the Greek Orthodox, it's about family tradition.
We are really connected over many generations, and we have a very strong sense of identity and tradition and faith and continuation of the faith.
At St. Paul's, not all churchgoers are members, but attend regularly.
Harvesting air conditioning condensation could replace cities' potable water use. While looking for ways to make homes and offices more efficient, building managers have realized that something as seemingly insignificant as the water droplets from the underside of air conditioning units have the potential to quench the thirst of thousands. It is not the hardest challenge.
The efficient modern air conditioners not only do not consume water, but they produce it out of the air moisture. The liquid water is formed by condensation inside the device and comes out through a small hose and then discarded. The amount of water produced in a day reaches about 20 liters or more in a 1-ton capacity air conditioner. A simple way to recover and use the water by using it to water the garden is by using a 20-liter empty paint can after washing it thoroughly. The first thing to do is to fit a valve in a hole near the bottom of the can and properly seal it to prevent leaks. The valve is equipped with a barb fitting which connects to a plastic hose running all the way to the garden, taking into account the necessary slope for water to run. A hole is made in the lid of the can in order to fit the hose coming from the air conditioner. At the top of the can, a plastic elbow will be placed both as a vent and to allow the water to spill out in case the can gets overfilled. Normally, each time the water begins to spill through the plastic elbow, the valve should be open to water the plants. When there is a lot of moisture in the air, the can fill up very quickly. To store all the water available, maybe we need to add other cans.
You're watching The World Today with Rose OCHEME-OJABO on TECNTV.com. Thank you so much for spending time with us. You can watch me daily on TECNTV.com at 2 p.m. Eastern Time and 7 p.m. West African Time. You can connect with me on Facebook. You can also watch Global Impact Today with David Mackwell at 8 p.m. West African Time. From Abuja, Nigeria, God bless the world today.